My life has been turned upside down by the manipulative actions of a narcissistic mother and a jealous sister who conspired to deceive my husband, attempting to drive a wedge between us. Their intricate scheme aimed to have my sister, who struggles with infertility, marry my husband. This arrangement would have allowed her to take custody of my children and sever my ties to the family entirely. The situation is incredibly tangled and overwhelming, leaving me unsure of where to begin untangling this mess. Reflecting on my past, I endured a tumultuous and abusive childhood that took 2 decades to overcome. However, it now feels as though I am back at the very beginning of my healing journey, forced to confront old wounds once more. At 31 years old, I find myself grappling with the resurgence of past traumas. My mother has been a source of relentless abuse since birth, and I am one of 3 siblings, my brother, who is 29, and my sister, who is 28. Our father abandoned us when I was just 5 years old, following a significant argument. From that point on, our mother's anger issues only intensified. She would explode with rage over even the smallest inconveniences, making our home environment volatile and unpredictable. One of my earliest memories is the frequent physical altercations between my parents. My mother would hurl objects at my father, who initially tried to evade them. However, after being hit and hurt, he retaliated by throwing things back at her. While this might seem amusing to some, witnessing these violent exchanges as a child was terrifying. Both of them would get injured, sometimes even bleeding from their wounds. These fights were deeply traumatic for us, leaving a lasting impression of fear and instability. Many nights were spent in tears, desperately trying to find solace and eventually falling asleep amidst the chaos. Eventually, my father decided to leave, although I can't recall the exact moment, or his final embrace before he departed. After his departure, our lives deteriorated further. Without him as the primary male presence in the household, we felt vulnerable. Strange men began to show up at our home, some giving my sister and me unsettling looks, while others would engage in physical confrontations with our mother, leading to broken furniture and heightened tension. As I grew older, some of these men even attempted to grope me when my mother was not around. Being a young child, I couldn't fully understand what was happening, but I instinctively knew that something was terribly wrong. My mother was perpetually in a foul mood, making any confrontation with her nearly impossible. She barely had any time or energy for us, leaving us to manage most of our daily tasks independently. As the eldest sibling, the burden fell heavily on my shoulders. I had to prepare breakfast and school lunches for myself and my brothers and sisters. When we returned home from school, my mother was often out working, only to come home late at night. My brother would occasionally assist me, but more often than not, I was left to fend for myself. During weekends, my mother's behavior worsened as she would bring men into our home, further destabilizing our already fragile household. These men would confine her to her room for most of the weekend, only to erupt in anger if they heard us arguing, resulting in her yelling at or physically assaulting my brother and me before retreating back to her room. At the age of 11, my brother reached his breaking point and ran away from home. Astonishingly, our mother showed no concern or remorse over his departure. Despite my brother finding employment at a store just a mile away, our mother never made any attempt to contact him or bring him back home. This lack of empathy and support was a clear indication of how she viewed us merely as tools for maintaining her household. Eventually, I gathered enough courage to run away as well, but my mother quickly reported me to the authorities. The police brought me back home, where I tried to express my desire to leave, but was too frightened to reveal the full extent of the abuse I had endured. When my sister turned 12, she also attempted to escape by running away with her 18-year-old boyfriend. Once again, our mother failed to take any action, allowing her to leave without reporting her disappearance. By the time I was 15, my rebellious nature led me to confront my mother about her inconsiderate behavior. I questioned why she allowed my siblings to leave while keeping me tethered to the house. She shed fake tears, claiming that I was her favorite child and that she couldn't live without me. The reality was far different. She kept me around because I was responsible for maintaining the household, cooking dinners and breakfasts, cleaning, and handling other chores. In essence, she was exploiting my labor while disregarding my brothers and sister, whom she deemed useless and allowed to leave without consequence. It was a painful realization that I had been manipulated into servitude. Feeling utterly betrayed and used, I decided to run away from home, vanishing from my mother's life entirely. It's been 15 years since that moment, and I have never laid eyes on her face again. Now married with 2 daughters of my own, I find it hard to comprehend how my mother could have inflicted such pain on us. My protective instincts toward my girls are fierce, and I remain vigilant about their well-being, even when they are in the care of their grandfather and uncles. Since my marriage a decade ago, I have maintained contact with my siblings. My brother is also married, but has no children, while my sister remains single. My brother keeps minimal contact, reaching out only through calls or texts during significant occasions, such as the birth of my first daughter. During that time, my father reached out to me via text, revealing that he had been monitoring our lives through a fake social media account. He called to apologize for abandoning us, initially evoking anger within me for leaving us to endure such hardship. He claimed that he had no choice but to flee due to our mother's escalating abuse and violence. Despite having the option to report her and gain custody of his children, he chose to evade his responsibilities instead. Throughout these years, I sought therapy to cope with my past, eventually finding forgiveness for him. However, our contact remains minimal, only a few emails or phone calls each year. My sister and I share a closer bond, communicating more frequently, perhaps once a month, or even more often, supporting each other during difficult times. About 5 to 6 years ago, our mother reached out to all 3 of us, expressing a desire to reconcile. My brother immediately rejected her, slamming the door in her face and declaring that he had no interest in maintaining a relationship with her. I chose not to respond to her calls or texts, and she never appeared at my doorstep. However, my sister decided to give reconciliation a chance, believing it was a step toward healing from our shared trauma. Her therapist had advised her that forgiveness and reconciliation were essential for overcoming past wounds. While I remained skeptical about the effectiveness of this approach for her, I was determined not to allow our mother back into my life. As my mother's 50th birthday approached, my sister approached me with the proposition of reconciling once more. I was taken aback by her request, especially since she was aware of the immense pain I had endured. Despite our shared difficult childhood, my siblings had always depended on me as a protective shield. I had prepared meals, done the laundry, and taken care of them, but no one had ever done the same for me. I felt that I had suffered the most and lacked support. I reminded my sister of the physical abuse I had endured, even though I had shouldered all the household responsibilities. She acknowledged these memories, but suggested it was time to let go of the past, because our mother had supposedly changed. I firmly refused to reconcile, leading to her frustration over my continued resentment towards our mother. I tried to explain to her how challenging it was for me to come to terms with my past, especially when she proposed reconciliation based on the same traumatic history. She argued that family should forgive each other and support one another, attempting to guilt-trip me into abandoning my feelings of hatred. My sister dismissed my struggles as dramatic and exaggerated, claiming that many people go through similar experiences, but do not hold grudges to the point of severing family ties. She suggested that I was blowing my feelings out of proportion and undermining the progress I had made in therapy. I shared my concerns with my husband, who also encouraged me to move on and reconcile, leaving me questioning whether my feelings of resentment were justified, or if I was being overly dramatic, as my sister claimed. Update 1 ***. Hello everyone, thank you for validating my feelings. It has been comforting to realize that I am not alone in having endured such a rough childhood and in struggling with these burdens. To everyone who has faced similar experiences, I am truly sorry you had to go through such terrible things. I hope you all find strength, and you are absolutely right. I don't need to explain my feelings to everyone. Not everyone will understand, even if they have witnessed my struggles. My sister and I typically communicate over the phone and seldom meet in person, because she lives 4 hours away. 2 weeks ago, my sister showed up at my house unexpectedly. She hugged me for an unusually long time, expressing how much she missed me. When I asked what was wrong, she insisted it was nothing and that she simply wanted to share sisterly love. During our conversation, she began to revisit the topic of the importance of family, forgiveness, and the necessity of family members supporting one another. I interrupted her, suspecting that she was trying to manipulate me into reconciling with our mother. I confronted her, stating that if she was attempting to influence me to reconcile, it simply wasn't going to happen. She then tried to defend our mother, claiming that our mother missed me deeply and questioning why I harbored so much hatred towards her, especially since we had all suffered the same traumatic childhood. I made it clear that I was not responsible for how others felt about their experiences, but I was steadfast in my decision not to let go of my past. Additionally, our brother had not re-established contact with our mother, so I questioned why I was the only one refusing to have her back in my life. My sister responded by saying it was because our mother wanted to be around her grandchildren, and since I was the only one with children among our siblings, she preferred me. I remained unconvinced, arguing that a woman who had been so careless with her own children could not be trusted with my grandchildren. Furthermore, if our mother truly missed me, why had she never reached out? She asked if I would forgive her if she did contact me, and I admitted that I didn't know and had no desire for her to reach out. This led to her making a derogatory comment about me being a burden. As my mother's birthday drew near, my sister persistently urged me to attend the celebration, but I stood my ground. I warned her that if she continued to pressure me, I would have to sever ties with her as well. Reluctantly, she backed off, though she was visibly upset. I told her to disregard her opinion entirely. The next day, which was my mother's birthday, she unexpectedly showed up at my house. When I opened the door and saw her, I felt like I was facing a ghost. She was still the same self-centered, narcissistic woman she had always been. Without any warning, she barged into my home, demanding to see her grandchildren. My daughters were playing nearby, but I swiftly blocked her from interacting with them and instructed my children to go into their rooms. Our mother became furious, accusing me of treating her like a criminal. I retorted that she was indeed acting like a criminal, and should have been reported to the authorities 20 years ago. She then labeled me as vindictive, similar to how our father had abandoned us. In her attempt to provoke me, she discovered that I was in contact with our father. She tried to guilt-trip me by claiming that our father abandoned us while she had to work tirelessly to raise us, whereas I continued to hold resentment towards our father. I acknowledged her attempt to portray me as emotionally weak, and refused to allow my daughters to associate with someone as cruel as her, given her past behavior of letting her children be mistreated by her boyfriends. This infuriated her further, and she began shouting at me. I stood firm, asserting that she had not changed in the past 20 years. I demanded that she leave, threatening to involve the police if she did not comply. She departed with a bitter expression, leaving me seething with anger, my face still flushed from the confrontation. It was particularly disheartening, because my sister had been advocating for our mother, making me proud of my decision to cut her out of my life. Update 2 ***. Hello everyone, I apologize for the delay in providing an update, as I have been dealing with a significant amount of turmoil. Let me continue from where I left off that night. After my mother's unexpected visit, my husband returned home. I informed him about the confrontation with my mother, and he became angry with me for misbehaving and forcing our mother out of the house. He questioned why I couldn't be more like my sister and simply move on. He pointed out that both of us had the same traumatic past, yet my sister was able to move forward while I remained stuck. Shortly after, my sister called, upset that I had been rude to our mother. She argued that it was unfair that our father was still a part of my life despite abandoning us, while our mother was completely cut off. She contended that even though our mother had been somewhat unkind, she was the one who had raised us, unlike our father, who had abandoned his responsibilities. I acknowledged that our father was also at fault for leaving and not fighting for us, but he had reached out to apologize and take responsibility for his mistakes. In contrast, our mother remained the same narcissistic individual, refusing to acknowledge her wrongdoing. I explained that forgiveness doesn't work that way. It's not reasonable to expect a sincere apology, after she had tormented me throughout my childhood. My sister accused me of being too egoistic, and ended the call abruptly. I felt deeply upset that no one seemed to understand my perspective, not even my husband who was dismissing my feelings. I began to question myself, wondering if perhaps I was the problem since everyone else seemed to be siding with her. For the following week, my husband was unusually silent, and I didn't reach out to him either, because I was still processing my emotions. Then, a week later, he approached me with a confession, saying he needed to speak before it was too late. My heart sank, fearing another painful revelation. He asked me to listen fully before making any decisions, and I agreed. He confessed that he had attended my mother's 50th birthday party, which was hosted by my sister. I was furious, feeling betrayed as if he had cheated on me. According to his account, after my sister left our home that evening, she texted him that our mother was crying herself to sleep, because I was preventing her from seeing her grandchildren. He said he tried to convince me to reconcile, but my sister insisted he attend the birthday party to cover for me. At the party, he posed for pictures celebrating with my mother and sister, showing no signs of deceit. However, 2 days before he made this confession, our mother called him to dinner, asking to discuss something privately and instructing him not to inform me about it. This request puzzled him, but he went to meet her. My mother was late, but my sister arrived early, already intoxicated, and had ordered drinks for my husband. She began making advances towards him, flirting and speaking ill of me, labeling me as egotistic and vindictive. My husband apologized for shouting at me that night, claiming that his actions were influenced by our sister and mother. He realized their malicious intentions only after dining with them 2 days prior. Initially, he thought my sister was merely acting out of intoxication, but he soon recognized it was all part of a premeditated plan. He tried to get our mother to hurry up, because my sister was visibly drunk and needed to be taken home, but our mother did not respond. She texted him to drop my sister off at her house, which meant she would be around him again. My husband insisted that she take my sister away, refusing to bring her home in her inebriated state. However, my sister claimed she felt better after vomiting and insisted they continue dinner. She persisted in her flirtatious behavior, and our mother supported her actions, attempting to plant the idea that my sister and my husband would make a good couple. Our sister has a medical condition that prevents her from conceiving, which is why she hasn't married. Our mother proposed that marrying my husband would be the best solution for her, allowing her to gain custody of my daughters, so she could be around her grandchildren through her favored daughter and son-in-law. My husband walked away from the dinner, disturbed by their behavior. Since that night, my sister has been persistently texting him, asking him out to dinner, visiting her place, and sending inappropriate pictures of herself in changing rooms and mirror selfies with exaggerated pouty lips. This aligns with their scheme to make me appear as an irresponsible and neglectful mother. Although my husband described the events differently, I had seen all the messages and his replies. When I confronted him about whether he was interested in my sister, he firmly denied it, stating that if he had any interest, he would have cheated by now. I accused him of betrayal for attending our mother's party and going to dinners with them without my knowledge. However, I decided to address the immediate issue of dealing with my mother and sister first, putting aside the betrayal for the moment. My husband apologized profusely, assuring me that he would no longer be manipulated by them. He requested my forgiveness, and after much arguing, I agreed on the condition that he confront them about their deceit in front of me. He called my sister during our meeting, asking her to come to our house with our mother. When my mother and sister arrived, my husband recounted the entire incident once more. My sister denied some of his claims, but overall, his account was accurate, leaving both my sister and mother embarrassed by the situation. I lashed out at them, calling them names for causing chaos in my home. My sister began to cry, admitting that it was all our mother's idea to retaliate against me for humiliating her. She confessed that when she informed our mother about her medical condition, our mother suggested that she date my husband and seek custody of my daughters as a way to secure a husband and children for herself. It became clear that they had devised a comprehensive plan to portray me as an irresponsible mother. My mother had orchestrated this plot to make my husband cheat on me, believing that in a fit of rage, I would react violently, which they could then use against me to gain custody of my children. My mother remained silent, maintaining a cold demeanor as she whispered to my sister that she had done everything to improve her sister's life. However, my sister yelled back, stating that their actions were not meant to better her life, but to ruin mine. She accused our mother of always harboring hatred towards me and going to extreme lengths to destroy my life. In response, I expelled both of them from my house. My mother left without saying a word, but my sister stayed, holding my hands and crying. I told her that I had no compassion for her tears, reminding her that she was no longer a child susceptible to manipulation, and that she had a malevolent heart for betraying me and going behind my husband's back. Despite her tears and promises to never repeat her actions, I decided to cut her off completely. She attempted to contact me afterward, but I blocked her, severing all communication. I explained to my husband that the only reason I forgave him was because he had confessed. If I had discovered the truth on my own, I would have divorced him immediately and prevented him from having any contact with his daughters until they reached adulthood. Despite his insistence that we attend couples therapy to navigate through this phase, I remained extremely angry with him for his actions. Initially, I doubted whether he had truly cheated or was even considering it, but I realized that not all men are unfaithful. I also acknowledged that he played a crucial role in helping me rebuild my life after escaping from our abusive home. I used to work at his father's store, and since then, he and his parents have become my family. I am deeply grateful for their support and presence in my life. On to the next story Story 2 involves my wife and me working together at the same multinational company, albeit in different departments within the same location. Like many couples, we often discuss our work, vent about co-workers, and navigate workplace drama together. I am employed in a quality control lab, while my wife manages client relations and frequently interacts with the company's top executives during weekly meetings and other events. She is highly personable and has built friendships with these high-ranking individuals both inside and outside of work. Recently, I found myself frustrated with my co-workers. Some of them neglect quality control checks, ignore them when they fail, or even falsify and fabricate data to simplify their tasks. These actions are serious offenses in my field, often leading to termination. I expressed my concerns to my wife, mentioning that I had reported these issues to the supervisors overseeing the lab, but nothing ever changed. Today, after her morning meeting, my wife was sharing her frustrations with her team. To my astonishment, the issues I had raised about the lab came up during their conversation. I couldn't understand how my complaints were being discussed in her team, but evidently, they were taken seriously. By the end of the day, she was summoned by Human Resources to attend a meeting with the company's legal team, who were being flown in from our headquarters to address the matter. This development left me extremely anxious, fearing that I might be implicated and face repercussions such as being fired. Comments and reactions In response to my post, someone commented, "Dude, I'm a quality engineer, and everything you mentioned is definitely not unique to your company." These issues are rampant, because when something doesn't conform, it usually means action needs to be taken, often requiring extra paperwork. To avoid this, technicians find it easier to fudge the numbers. This is part of the reason why I dislike my job. I assume you work in a highly regulated field, hence the attention from the legal team. They will quickly determine why your wife has the knowledge she does, and you'll need to provide evidence to support your claims. Your quality manager will likely be asked to provide all inspection documentation, and if you're performing your duties correctly, you have nothing to worry about. One thing to remember is that people won't understand why the legal team showed up. They won't report you or your wife. Do underscore the importance of maintaining confidentiality, and demand 83001. Another user added, "That's comforting, laugh, Vita, Laker, not sure what you do, but it sounds like this needs to happen." Big fops for no kudos to the company for addressing it. Unless the company does nothing about the practices, but punishes OP and Mrs. OP for not coming forward sooner, it's time to get a lawyer. Legal team from your side means a legal team for me, mom_with_attitude. Are you the one falsifying data? If not, then I doubt you'll be fired if you reported it to higher-ups. I would start documenting what you said to whom and when you said it, especially in email form. Send those emails to your personal account and save them, as your job might depend on it. Demand 83001. Another insightful comment. I'm a bit worried about retaliation for being the one to say something. I definitely don't falsify results, mom_with_attitude. If I ran a company, I would be happy that someone spoke up. What grounds can they fire you on telling the truth? But I'm not a company owner, so I really have no idea what will happen. I think employers can fire anyone for any reason, bogus or not. Maybe start polishing your resume and applying for other jobs, just to be on the safe side. Good luck, Han. Wishing you the best. Update. It turns out that multiple individuals had reported the issues through our company's anonymous hotline. The legal team convened with my wife, because she was the only person known to have knowledge of the irregularities. 1 month later, both of us still retain our positions, and there has been no retaliation, alleviating my greatest fear. However, nothing has fundamentally changed within the company. The employees who were falsifying data remain employed and continue their unethical practices. Our company operates internationally, with headquarters in the United States, but it is primarily managed locally. One commenter joked about whether I worked at Boeing, which made me laugh considering the recent headlines. While we don't work for Boeing, we do operate in an industry where inaccurate lab results can have severe consequences, potentially harming people. I believe the local upper management is attempting to downplay the situation, because we are short-staffed and hesitant to fire skilled personnel. Therefore, I am continuing to report infractions to my supervisor and meticulously documenting each incident. I also plan to escalate these issues to our headquarters if there are no improvements within the next week. Additional comments included suggestions to look into whistleblower protections, ensuring that my employment is safeguarded, and that I might receive a percentage of any potential government fines. Another user advised contacting regulatory agencies like the FDA or OSHA, considering the severity of the infractions and the potential for significant harm if the lab continues to produce inaccurate results. Despite these challenges, my wife and I have maintained our jobs without facing any immediate repercussions. The individuals responsible for falsifying data remain unpunished, and their unethical behavior persists unabated. This situation underscores the need for vigilance and continued reporting to prevent further harm, and to hold those accountable who compromise the integrity of our work.